Hey, Kim, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right. Good deal. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Mrs. Peters, you look thrilled.
I can't see anything. Where am I at?
Turn on your
Oh, there you are. Now I see you.
Mr. Trenish, how are mom and dad doing?
Well, whenever they have out, got a new roof today, so he's happy. Mom's in my house.
Well,
sweet can be, I'm sure.
Yeah, she's pretty sweet.
For those of you that you had an updated calendar on your desk, that's because you picked up your board package, scratch board package, before we thought the change of January 4th versus 3rd. So we are returning January 3rd. That was the only change.
Okay.
Policy committee meeting report.
I just don't like starting on a Monday. I've been having 2 weeks off.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why
It's
policy
like dragging,
is just
but-
clean up or policy.
There's never a good day to start back. I mean,
Hard. I don't think so. It's no big deal.
You know, and I was in grammar check and spell, maybe I didn't grammar check, but I spell check.
It never catches it for me.
I do, especially because of you.
What do you have that for? Thursday.
I'm not trying.
She came back just for us.
No, you're
I didn't
good.
have that
I
Wednesday.
looked at it, I thought, oh, this is
Why don't
so
you-
chummy.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just be honest. I like,
Let's just
there
have
are
his.
certain words that
So
I
it should be fine.
like double, triple.
Your first
and
shot.
quadruple check. And public is one of them.
Friday down, I did Friday down at the fairgrounds.
That's a
That's a
well-oiled machine, man, isn't it?
Whether
And they're moving it,
I couldn't get one all of a sudden.
The group.
because your second one, you're probably gonna have to go to the mall.
Is more than one.
What's that?
They're moving it to the mall.
No, I was at the fairgrounds
I know that, was that your second or first?
first.
Yeah, your second one, they're moving the health department's vaccine clinic over to the River Valley Mall now.
That's too bad because that was, they didn't have to get out of the car at all and it was just,
We talked about that,
I
didn't we?
agree. I said some of the older people are probably just not gonna make it.
Or space.
Have to
they
walk
could
all the
actually-
way in, it's
Fairgrounds,
gonna be a problem.
They were only using, I think, one barn, weren't they, when we went through?
Yeah, why didn't they?
yeah,
use
one barn, but it was 3 lanes.
Yeah, I don't know.
It took longer to drive down and drive back than in line to do all that stuff.
We didn't have any reaction the first shot.
They didn't even make me.
They're not doing it in Ohio, but some places they're making home visits.
I don't think we're far from that in Ohio. I really don't. Especially when we get into people that are more reluctant or people that can't get to the location, they're gonna have to. And the only means by which I think they're gonna be able to do it is by fire departments.
Yeah. Well, I was telling Karen on the way in last night on 60 Minutes, they had a 20-minute segment on Columbus. And Mount Carmel has an outreach program that they're doing with the homeless, but they're also having a health department and nurse going around and they're giving shots too out there. It's pretty impressive.
It's a pretty good idea. So, you ready?
Okay, I think it's 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. With roll call, please.
Mrs. Armstrong? Here. Mrs. Keller? Here. Ms. King?
Present.
Mr. Popo?
Present.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Here.
Okay, stand for a pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mrs. Whitaker? A second? What?
Was Mrs. Keller.
Oh, what was Karen? I'm sorry. No, I can't.
I'll second.
I'm looking at her. I'm sorry.
I'll second.
You're okay.
I tell you with these mountains, when I can't hear.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions or comments about the agenda?
So I spoke with our softball coach and Mr. Jeff Dupler is not going to be able to volunteer this year due to some personal reasons that just came up in the last few hours, I think, or the last couple days. So under motion, I think it's 23. Letter B, we do not need to do Jeff Dupler for softball.
Okay, anything else on the agenda? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, public participation. I don't see anybody on the list.
I'm just looking in the back of it.
Anybody? No? Okay, a motion to approve the minutes from the February 8th meeting. I have a motion.
Motion.
Ms. Armstrong. Second,
Second.
Ms. Keller. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, the treasurer's report. A motion to approve the treasurer's report and accept bills for February.
Motion.
Mrs. Whitaker. Second?
Second.
Ms. Keller? And Mrs. Bradford, do you have anything to say about any of it?
Just a couple things I wanted in the treasurer's financial summary. I wanted to point out that we did receive our property tax. Sorry, Mr. Kirby's throwing something on there. My bad. That we did receive a property tax advance on, and I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that the fees do not come out of those property tax advances, so we should see those when we get our settlements this month. But a lot of those have to carry us through for the rest of this fiscal year and further. And so also, you've heard that the governor signed an executive order restoring some of the cuts that we had last year. Remember, we got cut in May. So it went through until this fiscal year also, but he signed an executive order and it restored it. So we received back, restored, $77,461 annually in our foundation payments. And this was the first payments that we had seen that. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And our student wellness, we always get two parts in student wellness funds. Those go into our 467 fund and not the general fund. And we received our second portion of that. So all in all, for the entire fiscal year, we received the amount that we were estimated at $176,412. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that in revenues. And then overall, we're trending very well in our revenues, anticipating what we were supposed to be getting in, and it's in line with all of our current trends. Our expenditures, again, are in line with prior years' trends for the mere fact that we paid off the COPS. So the past 2 years were above more than what we are trending now, and that's just because of those loan payments. So we're doing pretty good with that. Great. Do you guys have any questions? I wanted to make note too, we remember we were going through our redesign. Brenda's doing her first payroll with that, so it took a lot longer than what we had anticipated. Yes. However, on your table of contents, what I did was I tried to show you what the new report title is and what the prior title was. So on number 3, it's now called a financial summary by fund report, when before it was our fund sum report. So in parentheses is what the former report was. So I'll still continue to do that a couple more months so that you guys get used to that. And if you have any questions on those new reports, just let me know. We tried to get them with a crosswalk or as similar as the old ones that I could get them. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions or comments, anybody? Okay, if everybody's had a chance to look it over, we'll have roll call.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, the next item, we need a motion to approve the amended FY21 appropriations and authorize the creation of the 022 fund and retroactively authorize the creation of 467, 499, and 536 funds. Got a motion? Motion. Armstrong. Second?
Second.
That was a lot of wording for funds. So basically, this is just, we amended our appropriations I told you that before I was going through all of the budgets to try to make sure that they were in line with 100% of what we would be expending this fiscal year, both with state, federal, and our local funds. So we are to that point. The creation of the O22 fund is a tournament fund, and the workers' comp fund is an O22 fund. So we've started that one up. So that's a brand new fund for us. So the board does have to approve any new funds that we start putting money into. And then the creation retroactively of the 467 fund, the 499, and the 536 fund. This comes from our audit. One of the things that they had mentioned was those three funds were not prior approved by the board. So we're doing it retroactively and taking care of that audit issue. The 467 fund are those wellness funds from the state. 499 fund is any state grants. That was our BWC grant that we used. And the 536 fund is a new federal fund that was given back to us, I believe, last year or the year before. I'm sorry? No restoration. So because we had expended things out of those funds, the board has to approve any new funds. So this wording has been approved by the auditors, so we're good.
Questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Carried. Okay, communications, principals report. Mrs. Jenny, you there?
I am here. All right, so a couple things. Great news to start off my report today is that we have had 1 day of kindergarten screening, and we are getting ready on Wednesday to have our second day of kindergarten screening, and we have almost 30 kindergartners registered for screening, which is so awesome, and so many more than we've had in, I can't even recall the last time we had 30 kindergartners come to screening. And so we all know that lots more show up closer to the beginning of school. And so we're hoping that continues to be the case, and we have a really big kindergarten class to start us off. So I know that that's been an issue for a while, and not having very many ready to go, but we have close to, well, I think we had 29 and we were waiting on one more. So I think that is awesome news. I wanted to recognize the spelling bee winners for our district this year. This time we had it virtual, and the students did it all online. It's not the best option, and we prefer the other one, of course, but we did it all online because we're not afraid, or we were afraid of switching from one learning model to another and having to switch our plans in mid stream. So we just opted to go the digital route this year. But we had a fifth grade winner this year for the overall spelling bee, and Raylan Dendel. And our grade level winners were Annabelle Deal in 4th grade, Ava Blevins in 5th grade, Thomas Kyler in 7th grade, and Ellen Bruckemeyer in the 8th grade. So congratulations to all of them. Their picture has appeared on our Laker Facebook page and in several different social media
We're gonna
outlets.
try to get them here next month, right, Kim?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, a couple other exciting things going on. We are partnering again with the Lions Club for our annual kindergarten Easter egg activity. I believe that this year we won't be searching for the Easter eggs, but I believe that they're still going to bring us bags of candy for all the kindergarten students, and we're making arrangements right now for that date. I don't have that date firmed up yet. And starting next week for 1 week, we're going to do a penny war to benefit Ronald McDonald House at the elementary. And that Penny Wars was kind of started by Holly Height. You might remember her, a past graduate of Millersport. And she is she's interning at the Ronald McDonald House until April. And so she contacted me and asked if we could help her out in some way. She wanted to have a fundraiser. She talked about the pop tabs, but we already do those through the Lions. So we're going to have a friendly little penny war activity next week and help her out in her internship. And next week is the end of the third grading period. It's gone by very quickly. And so we'll be preparing for that at the end of next week. I think that's about it. We're having spring pictures tomorrow at the elementary. And they are not doing class pictures this year. They are just doing the, if you ordered a class picture, then you're going to get a composite of the fall, the little pictures from the fall, all on one page for their class picture this year. Now I think that's it.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Okay, we'll move on to Mrs. Terry.
Thank you.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, my video is not keeping up, so I was a little worried. So starting with parent-teacher conferences, we were finally able to get those in after how many weeks of delay. I got some good feedback from parents and teachers. This year we decided to do the team format. So instead of having students or parents travel from teacher to teacher, they actually met with their students' teaching team. So that seemed to go very well. And it actually was able to help parents communicate with multiple teachers at the same time to kind of get stories straight and gather information that way. Hopefully you guys are able to see all the pictures I've been trying to include. We've got some nice displays in the high school. We've got a board up for the student of the month where I put their pictures in every month. We also have a testing all-stars board along with our honor roll. I want to make sure I congratulate our 2021 winter homecoming court, which was recognized on February 11th. Our freshman attendant was Emily Blevins. Sophomore attendant was Mackenzie Gossel-Smith. Junior attendant Kalani Maynard. And our senior attendants were India Hector, Amy Foltz, and Kendall Schilling. And India was crowned queen at the basketball game on the 11th. So that was really exciting for all those girls. And I'm glad we were able to bring it together, even if it was in basketball season and not in the fall. Let's see. I also want to congratulate our February students of the month. These students of the month were recognized by our English Language Arts department. 7th grade, Jaden Gilman and Keegan Spears. 8th grade, Kia Webster and Brayton Carter. 9th grade, Sarah Voss and Alec Petrevsky. 10th grade, Amy Harrison, Jordan Ross. 11th grade, Brooke Durbin and Mason Reynolds. 12th grade, Layla McLean and Alex Brown. And our LVA student recognized this month was Robert Bernard. So we were able to actually have our more traditional get together where the students played games and hung out and had snacks in the Learning Center now that we're back full time. So that was a lot of fun. Our seniors have started selling candy bars. And from what I've heard, they're going very quickly. So I believe Mr. Amsbaugh will be ordering more. So I've seen a lot of candy bars around the school being sold. So that's very exciting. Our most recent news is I want to congratulate our Millersport High School students that were recognized at the Columbus Teen Eco Summit. That team was Megan Batson, Emma Diani, Amy Foltz, Tyler Hall, Natalie Robertson, Elliot Stoner, and Nathan Turner. This year's Eco Summit was in the virtual format. This was the first time we've held it virtually. And I believe this is our 4th year doing it. Our 4th year in the Eco Summit. We are one of the only schools in the state who have been invited to all of the eco summits that have occurred at the Columbus Zoo. This year, they presented a project to help start a bioswale on school grounds that will help control runoff and help to naturally filter pollutants, which would otherwise end up in the lake. Their team was awarded a $1,450 grant to help design and create their plan. And just to give you an idea of what we're looking for, or looking at, I should say, only 7 schools were given grants at the Eco Summit. So some of those names: Gahanna Lincoln, Bell Fountain, New Albany, Hilliard-Davidson, Olentangy, and Pickerington North were the other schools. So I was really, really proud to see little Millersport standing shoulder to shoulder to all those big districts. And we did receive one of the largest awards from the Columbus Zoo. And we're on all their social media, Instagram. It's kind of cool. Last but not least, we have awards for our basketball teams for this past season. I want to start by congratulating our boys basketball team. They were sectional champs. Mason Purvis was Mid-State League Player of the Year. He also was on first team Player of the Year, along with his twin brother, Carter. Tate Trenish was also recognized for honorable mention. And for our girls, they had a tough season, but just watching them grow, considering there were 5 freshmen on that varsity team, was really fun to watch. And Isabella Erlenbach was recognized as honorable mention for our girls basketball team. We have group pictures on Wednesday for our yearbook. And tomorrow, all juniors will be taking the ACT. And I think that's it.
Very good, thank you. Anybody
You're
have any
welcome.
questions for Megan?
I'm sorry.
I just asked if anybody had any questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, very good.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I wanted to mention and forgot to put it on my list about on Thursday, the 25th. I wanted to mention that Mr. Stout and Mrs. Savage have organized a music concert for our school. And although we are not having any visitors come, Mr. Stout has put a lot of work into taking the whole auditorium and mapping it out so that they are not, the classes will be distanced away from each other. And they're going to have rotating, each class is going to sing a couple of songs, and he's got it all planned out who will be on deck and who will be singing, and we're just going to perform it for the students in our school. And he's put a lot of work into it. So I want to say thank you to him, and thank you to try and bring us some music back to our school. So I'm happy about that. Thanks.
Very good. Mrs. Peters, I see you on there. Do you have anything you'd like to say? No? Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Kirby, I guess you're up.
All right, so I'll start with really good news. This week is the first week that we had 0 students, or basically for the prior week, we had 0 students test positive for COVID-19, 0 staff members test positive for COVID-19, and we did not place any additional students or staff in quarantine. So this is the first time in this school year that we've hit that benchmark. And so I'm very appreciative of the work that our staff does, our students do, and our families are doing to maintain social distancing and being much more aware of wearing face masks and all the safety protocols. So I hope we stay on that trend for the rest of the year.
Hope so too.
So the next piece is I'm going to talk briefly about the class of 2020. Which is last year's graduates. We know that they did not get to take their senior trip. Mrs. Bradford and I, in conjunction with Mr. Amspaugh, as well as Mrs. Terry, have been working with those students to come up with what's going to happen with those funds and what do they want to do. So we came up with a number of options for that group, and that was sent out for a vote for those students, which included taking a trip again in the future, and as well as many of other options. What they did vote for unanimously, they voted to keep $1,500 back for their 5-year reunion. And they voted 80% to 20% to make a donation to a nonprofit organization to set up a scholarship for the class of 2020 to be distributed to them for school-related or work-related expenses. And I know Mr. Anspaugh has been working with Lions Club to serve as that organization. So we are in the process of getting all that documentation in place so that we can go ahead and we can approve that requisition to make that donation in the name of class of 2020. And then those students only. No other students from anywhere else are going to be eligible. Only our students will be eligible to apply for their scholarship fund. Questions on that? It's been a lot of work in the making, but we finally got there, and we got votes to support making that the decision that they made. Nobody voted to take the trip at this point. I mean, they've been out now for a year, so most of them did not want to take another trip.
When you say scholarships towards, did you say towards work and
School. So if we have students, oh, go ahead. So if we have a student that is going into electrician to become an electrician, and there's tools or materials that they need to buy as a part of that, then they'll be able to provide that documentation to the Lions Club and be able to get that scholarship to help pay for that. So
will the money, like all of the money, be divided into different scholarships, or?
It'll be one scholarship for that class for everybody to be able to apply for. And what they'll do is continue to keep that open in the future until the Lions Club is exhausted and they've distributed all of those funds.
Thank you. So,
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
can I also say thank you to Sydney Tisdale? She was the class of 2020 senior president. She was very, very helpful on getting the information out to the class of 2020. I am not a Facebook, Instagram, social media kind of girl, so she was able to push out that info through those social media sites to get us some response. So thank you to Sydney.
When it comes to designing how this looks, Mr. Anspaugh is going to be working with the Lions Club to help get that set up. We will provide to them a comprehensive list of the students that are part of the class of 2020. So that way, nobody randomly can just apply for it. They're going to be able to check that very quickly against the list that we provide them as a district. And that way, we make sure it's not being distributed to somebody who's class of 2020 from Liberty Union, things like that.
So you said that they'll just keep distributing through scholarships until that money is gone. So meaning that it may not all be gone in 1 year.
Exactly.
It could be a perpetual thing.
Exactly. And it may take a couple of years for them to distribute all of those funds. So it'll be a nice opportunity for our kids that are in college that could come back and apply for scholarship to help get their books paid for, or materials, things like that paid for. Same thing for our students that didn't go to college, but also are going into or they went into employment. We wanted to value that as well. We wanted to value both sides of that and not just make it one-sided. And that's kind of the parameters we put in place. The Lions Club is going to work with Mr. Anspaugh to make sure that that gets set up. The dollar amount that will be donated is $19,756.30. That will take the account down to, I believe, $1,500 exactly, which will be retained for their 5-year class reunion. The last piece here is today is the hearing for our 2021-2022 school calendar. I want to thank Mrs. Peters and Mrs. Neely and Heather Terry for their work on the school calendar. We had a great meeting. We put our heads together on a number of things that I'm going to draw your attention to it. One of the things that we've all talked about is parent-teacher conferences. How do we increase participation? How do we make them more relevant throughout the year? One of the ways that Mrs. Peters and Mrs. Neely suggested, as well as even actually my 2 building administrators, is let's space them out throughout the year so that they align more with our interims each quarter. So that way we're providing opportunities for structured parent-teacher conferences each quarter. Our teachers are still doing the same amount of conference time, but we're just spacing it differently. Instead of doing 2 nights in 1 week, we're doing 4 nights, but 1 each quarter. Hopefully this will alleviate having to cancel conferences like I did twice this year and then get to the 3rd week, which obviously that had a direct impact on the number of parents that were participating. So we want to make sure that the conferences were more in line with the needs of our parents. Another piece is we're going to keep monitoring participation. Our goal is, our teachers don't want to sit here and not have parents to interact with. So we came up with a lot of different ideas, and we're going to track attendance this upcoming year. We're going to take some steps to really encourage parents to come in, such as sending postcards to our students that are in DF category, making sure we're getting those parents in here. However, this year with the pandemic, a lot of folks were a little bit hesitant. We have also been very willing to look at doing more virtual conferences for some parents and families that did not want to travel in. And our teachers obviously conference with parents frequently outside of conference time, but these are the 4 structured conferences. The other piece is we typically started them at 3 p.m., but at the request of our elementary representative, they really struggle to start at 3 p.m. because by the time we get the kids through parent pickup out to the bus, it's about 3:15. So they really wanted to start those at about 3:15 instead of 3 o'clock. So we pushed that start time back a little bit. Instead of alternating those 3 hours and 4 hours, and usually we did 3 hours one night, 4 hours another night, what we did is we did 3.5 hours each night to make it the same each of those 4 nights. We'll keep you updated on how this looks next year, and we're going to collect that data to see if we need to make any future changes to increase participation. We came up with a lot of creative ideas, right, Mrs. Peters? Secondly, one of the things that we looked at here is coming into this school year, the board graciously voted to amend the calendar and give me 4 additional professional development days. As a committee, we decided we did not need 4 additional professional development days for this upcoming school year like we did this year. So in this calendar, we placed 3 days back into student days. So 3 of the 4 days we put back into student days. So there's that 4th day that we had for PD, and I will draw your attention to April 18th. It's the Monday after Easter. And what we're doing there is it's listed as a professional development day. And I want to be transparent. There's a number of required trainings that are listed in Ohio Revised Code, Ohio Administrative Code, but also federal requirements for what's called our internet protection for children, and our staff has to go through that. But also like our food service folks, as well as our transportation folks. There's all these required trainings that we typically would provide in different ways. A lot of times outside of contract time, things like that. One of the things that we're looking at is wanting to bring in a program that actually provides that required training that we can provide to staff that's virtual, so that we no longer have to pull our school nurse out to go in and do that training. Specifically for, how do you operate an AED with this particular model? There's still hands-on for AED, but in order to learn how to operate the AED, you can do that through an online program. Other pieces are when we look at Ohio ethical use of tests for our staff that administer assessments, that's required. Typically, our principals do that during their staff meeting time rather than other times. The other pieces are when we're looking at child abuse and prevention, there are a number of required trainings that have to be done. And so one of the things we're looking at that 18 for is I have more than enough hours in all of my different job classifications to be able to equate to a full day of work of required trainings, things that are not high level, but things that we have to provide. Another new one that came out this year that Mrs. Terry is my Title IX coordinator is Title IX. Title IX is a major lift on the part of training our staff. That is discrimination based on sex and sexual harassment. And so there's a lot of trainings that have to happen there. Also, we're looking at making sure that our staff is receiving training on our emergency operations plan, which is our safety plan, but also some of our fiscal procedures. With Mrs. Bradford and I being new, we want to make sure everybody is on the same page that here's the process. In order to get a purchase order to buy anything, you have to have a PO number. To get a PO number, there's a requisition process you have to do. You submit the requisition, it happens quickly. Even myself as superintendent, I can't just buy something. I have to go through that same process. And we want to make sure we provide that training to our staff. There's other policies that we can pull out and we can train our staff on as well. And so it's not on the agenda this month to look at public schools or safe schools. There's a lot of different providers out there, but these are required trainings that do not require a huge amount of time. But for example, the Ohio Ethical Use of Test is about a 15-minute training. But when you add them all up, you end up getting to about 7 hours. I do have a number of samples of what that might look like in terms of the courses that are in Ohio Administrative Code and Ohio Revised Code that I can share with you today. We're looking at that to be in lieu of day. So our staff, if they have not completed the training by that date, they will be here. Mrs. Peters will agree with me. They will be here on site to complete that training. If they do that training on their own time, it's an in lieu of day. It gives them they've done the work. They have to submit a transcript. If we do the online program, then we will have access to that transcript automatically. So they don't have to necessarily see the transcript. I can see that they've met the requirements. That's what we're looking at there. If you notice spring break, it was originally in here for a week, but spring break is extremely late next year because we always have it either usually the week before or the week after Easter. And we discussed that it's so late that at that point we should just kind of buckle down, give them some time off, the Thursday, Friday, and then the in lieu of day on Monday, but let's get to the end of the year. The calendar also has students and staff finished before Memorial Day. You'll notice that there's not purple and gold days on here. As of right now, we have not been given any authority to be able to add in a hybrid type of a schedule for next year. That was a single year. That could change if cases completely change and start to skyrocket and go back up. And then you can bet that we would probably be back in front of you if there was a revision to the calendar. There's one statement at the bottom, the 2 stars. If the SCF, which is Sweet Corn Festival, is canceled, those days may become student days and everything in August will move forward 3 days. So instead of staff starting on the 16th, staff will start on the 19th. And notice it's a big word that says those days may become. That doesn't mean they shall become. It just means that we have the discretion to do that. And working with Michelle Peters and Michelle Neely and Heather Terry, we were trying to find a way to put that in there in such a way that if our staff doesn't go and schedule book air flight or airfare and hotels for a nice long weekend, if the Sweet Corn Festival does not move forward, that we have the flexibility. Now we can say, no, you knew up front that we were going to use those as school days. That's the calendar in a nutshell. I'm happy to field any questions. Sweet Corn Festival is still in there. The last I heard is it's moving forward. And I'm sure all of you have got the same information. And you'll see the Thursday, Friday of Fair Day. Fair days are still in there as well.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments for him? Thank you. Board and committee reports. Did we have any committee meetings? I think we did. Okay. Moving right along. Item 9. The motion authorizing the purchase of competitive retail electric service from the Willow Street. Responsible bid submitted for the billing period. And this is from July 22nd or July 2022. Okay. And terminating no later than June of 2027. Do I hear a motion? Okay, Holly. Strong. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Kelly. Okay, any comments, questions?
We do this every time. We usually go into a 3 to 5 year with Meta. They will competitively bid for multiple school districts throughout the state of Ohio so that we can get a better wattage per hour rate for the schools.
Okay, no other questions? We'll have roll call.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Okay, moving on to item 10, to accept the renewal of property insurance coverage policy. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Mrs. Keller? Mrs. Whitaker? Questions or comments?
One of the things that we're going to be doing for next year is to go through with our inventory and all of the incidentals that are on there, making sure that it really is the amounts that we need. You know, there are some Nikon cameras on there that are covered for $500. We can buy those Nikons for cheaper than that. So one of the things that we had talked about, Bob and I, was just to go down through every single thing and make sure that it makes sense for us. So we'll do a total revamp for that next year.
All right, if there are no questions, roll call, please.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Carried. Item 11, a motion to appoint Jill Bradford as the public records designee for the district. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Ms. Armstrong? Second?
Second.
Ms. Kelly? Questions or comments?
I'm sure you want that.
You know, what's funny is when we went back through, we don't feel a lot of public records requests.
Right.
And that's one of the things that, this will be added to our beginning of the year, when we do our reorganizational meeting, that we'll just appoint the public records person each year.
I thought Vincent had been appointed.
Can't hear you.
Evidently, they couldn't find your name in the record.
So now we're really getting appointed out for the auditor, so we're good.
Roll call.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, our superintendent's recommendations. Motion to accept a donation of $1,000 from Quick 7596 LLC for the football program. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Ms. Armstrong? Have a second?
Second.
Ms. Whitaker?
This is a donation that Nick Lewis was able to get on our behalf towards restarting our football program. That will be essential for the candidate to be able to move forward and being able to get everything reconditioned, purchase what we need new. Obviously, additional funds are going to have to be raised. However, this is going to help offset that.
I would just like to thank Nick Lewis for that work.
In our upcoming newsletter, there is a thank you for Nick in there in the article regarding football, once the board reviews tonight the candidate, and I think he's going to continue to work with us and be supportive of the work that the district's doing, not just for football, but collectively as athletics.
And this went in the football account, right?
Correct.
Okay, instead of the athletic.
Yes, correct. It was specifically earmarked for that.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Okay. Motion to accept and approve the alcohol and substance abuse agreement between FMC and Walnut Township. Do I hear a motion? Ms. Whitaker? Second?
Second.
Ms. Keller?
So last month I had to review and approve the required alcohol and substance abuse program for our transportation folks, which is a part of our policy, but also a part of state and federal law. This is for our athletic program. One of the things that I provided each of you is a copy of as a part of our agreement with Fairfield Medical Center is they have to provide us access to a resource. They provide us access to Dolly Ridge Medical Center, their substance abuse program. I challenged Mrs. Taylor, which she's not on, and Mrs. Wiles to create a parallel also that Dolly Ridge may not be the answer for a particular child or a particular situation, that we need to create a more exhaustive list than just a single substance abuse program. And what we did is we reached out to Adam H. We reached out to several community resources here in Fairfield County, but also more in the Central Ohio area, so that if we do have a student that is in the pool for drug testing, for athletics, or driving to school, one of the things we can do is we can provide resources to that parent and guardian as well as that athlete, so that we can support them to overcome any substance abuse issues that they may have. And so this is still a work in progress. There's some additional services that we are looking at, but it is not, our conversation last month is not lost on me in terms of we have to have the other side of it. It can't be just a I caught you and I got you and then here's a consequence. We need to have the other side of it, of how we're going to support that child.
Any other comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
No.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, motion to approve the March substitute teacher list. I hear a motion.
Motion.
Mrs. Keller. Second,
Second.
Whitaker. Comments?
All two of them.
Both of them.
Yeah. This is adding two.
Yeah, I know.
Roll call.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. At least we didn't have, was it Olin Andrew today that had 9 buildings that they couldn't have school because they didn't have enough substitutes?
And they got their vaccine Friday?
I don't
It was
know.
last week sometime. They still had staff out today.
9 buildings is what.
Yeah. Building was what?
Okay, we need a motion to adopt the policies that we talked about last month. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Ms. Armstrong. Do I have a second?
Second.
Whitaker. Comments or questions?
I have one on the first one on the executive session on page 2, where it says in compliance with law, no official action may be taken in executive session. To take final action on any matter discussed, the board reconvenes in public. So I'm reading that so we can take a straw poll in executive session then, as long as it's not official.
It is not regarded as a best practice to do so. No, I mean, the purpose of executive session is just for us to debate that and have that discussion, but any official vote or anything of that nature should be happening in the purview of the public.
Good answer.
We will be carrying no straws to executive session.
No.
Anything else?
I think I had something else back in the
Just to point out, though, that the regulations for the acceptable use policy, we didn't take the OSBA revision, we kept our old.
Yes, yes. We did keep our old form. It does, it includes all of the requirements and the updated policy, but it's a form that we have used and our families are comfortable with and familiar with, and so we felt that it was appropriate to keep our form.
Anything else? Roll call?
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, superintendent's personnel recommendations. We need a motion to non-renew Teresa Willis as educational aide. Do I have a motion? Mrs. Whitaker? A second?
Second.
Mrs. Keller?
This is the standard approach. We have a couple of positions. Actually, I think there's 3 on here. Yes, there's 3 that we non-renew each year. And then pending the need for that position, then we do extend them the offer of a contract for a period of 1 year. Because some of these positions, such as Teresa Willis, is in a situation where it's pending if we have enough students that we have the need for her.
Any questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, same motion for Sharon Lawrence, literacy specialist. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Keller? Second?
A second.
Ms. Armstrong?
Same situation here. I know that Mrs. Lawrence has been reaching out to and actually collaborating with Mrs. Terry, and she's back on, we're trying to figure out how to get this facility that we're in right now back open to students for at least part of the day. So we're working through what that looks like. Obviously, we use Mrs. Lawrence and her capacity at the elementary to help with covering teacher planning time for specials. And so we're trying to figure out what that looks like here in the secondary building. And so they've been putting their heads together. She also has books ready to be brought over here to be cataloged and put on the shelves for our students.
Questions or comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, motion to non-renew Nancy Augsburger, online education monitor supervisor. Motion? Ms. Armstrong? Second?
Second.
Keller?
Nancy does wonderful work this year. She has been essential for the work that we've done by offering students the online option in our Laker Virtual Academy. And she has been that primary point of contact for our students and our parents that are working with our LVA students at home. She lived up to the challenge early on. We had about 150 some students, 159 students that wanted to go fully online. We are down into, I think we're around 46 as the last count, this as of today. So a number of students have come back, which is great, but Nancy has continued that work for us over the year.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. Whitaker?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, motion to accept the retirement of Patty Zollinger, elementary secretary, at the end of the day on March 27th. Do I hear a motion?
All right.
She don't get to retire.
She doesn't get to retire. Nobody's gonna help her.
Second?
I'll second.
So the date has significance. I will tell you that Patty's husband retired a year ago that day. And so that date has significance for her. It is a Saturday. She is fulfilling her duties up through that date. We were sad to see Patty go, but we think that she's excited for some opportunities outside of the normal 8 to 4 schedule she's been working. So we wish her all the best. She has asked that we do not throw a celebration in her honor. And I respect her wishes. And so I will not be throwing a retirement celebration or doing something of that nature at her request.
We'll miss her. Any other comments or questions? Roll call?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yeah.
Ms. King.
Yes, with regrets.
I didn't tell somebody she can't. I know. She'll be missed.
Okay, next item. Motion to employ under a supplemental contract, Bob Hurst, assistant softball coach. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Baker. A second?
Second.
Kelly? Questions or comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, our next one is to approve non-certified employee under the supplemental contract for head football coach, Jack Trenish. Do I hear a motion?
Right.
Mrs. Whitaker? Second?
Second.
Mrs. Keller?
I know you've heard me say this before. We started with 47 applications. We struggled as a committee to narrow that down. We did narrow it to 11. One person withdrew their name. They had a new baby born and just realized that it was a lot more than what they thought. I can relate. And so we interviewed 10, and after extensive interviews in the midst of all of our calamity days, I will say that we were, as a committee, we were very unified. The entire committee was unified in our selection of Jack Trenish as our top candidate to take over the helm, or actually begin the helm of the varsity football program for the 21-22 school year. Mr. Trenish is here today, and I'm sure he would be willing to answer any questions you may have.
Is it true all the candidates were over 90 except Jack?
That is not accurate. That is not accurate.
Not allowed to ask that question.
Yeah.
Right, the speech discrimination.
They can't see him. No, I will tell you that the 10 candidates that we interviewed, all of which were very, very highly skilled. We were looking for some very specific pieces, especially in the situation that we're in, restarting the program. Also, a balancing act to make sure that we don't end up having a negative impact on our parallel programs as well. But also making sure that we understand, or having the right person to be able to do some of the fundraising, but also building relationships with our students. From when I was participating in high school athletics, kids have changed quite a bit. And we felt that Mr. Trenish is going to be a good fit with our students and be able to develop strong relationships with our young people to get them to commit, show up, and engage in this program. Mr. Trenish and I have met, and we've already discussed that he is looking at dates for our second town hall so that we can introduce Mr. Trenish publicly. There is an article ready to go for the newsletter, so I'll send you a revised newsletter as soon as I get it. They have it. I just didn't want to put it in there until the board took action. And so we will be able to share that information publicly. We've talked about fundraisers. We've talked about a lot of the status of where we're at. So, Mr. Trenish, do you have anything you would like to share?
Very gracious and humbled to have the opportunity to come back home. Spent 13 years away, but before that I was here for 17 years. And I've always really never stopped believing purple. Graduate of 1990. So I am under 90 years of age.
So you were the most active of all the candidates.
I have a kind of a question, and I don't want to get into a personnel issue in a public meeting, but there has been a lot of work done prior to now to get to this point. Are you willing to bring those people on board that did that work, or have you had that conversation yet, or?
Briefly,
Okay.
with one, absolutely. I've been given some of the packet from Mr. Kirby, and there's a lot of work done there. So I would definitely like to keep him, and anyone else was involved in that process. It's going to take a lot of people. It's a big hill climb.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Anybody else? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you. Woo! Now we can go to print, right?
Now I can go to print.
Okay, our next motion to non-renew supplemental contracts effective at the conclusion of contractual obligation for contracts with the WTEA. Do I have a motion? Motion? Second?
Second.
Whitaker?
So this is standard. Each year we non-renew all of our supplemental contracts. And then I've already requested all of our folks internally, and Mrs. Terry will be sending out the letters to all of our external folks, folks that are interested in retaining the same supplemental contract next year. And so you'll be seeing those in the an upcoming board meeting. I believe it might be May that we do it. Is it April? One supplemental, one certified.
Some is April, some is May, but.
So you'll be seeing all those come back up. We're waiting. I gave them, I think, until the end of March to respond of their interest. And then that way, if we don't have anyone, if they don't want to retain those, then we can post those again internally before our next board meeting.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Winiker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Carried. Okay, I need a motion to recognize Bree Laird as softball volunteer coach. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mrs. Whitaker? Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Keller? Discussion?
Has she helped before? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking she has.
Roll call?
Mrs. Winiker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes. Okay, same thing for Steve Pierce for volunteer coach for track. Do I hear a motion?
We already did the motion.
No.
They're all under the same.
Okay,
Vote.
we're taking the vote separately.
Yep.
Okay, all right, gotcha. Any comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, Mrs. Keller.
Yes.
Just a second. Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, do we have anything else that we need to discuss tonight? If not, I'll have a motion for adjournment then, please.
Motion.
Mrs. Armstrong? Second,
Second.
Whitaker? Anybody have any complaints about adjournment? Roll call?
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller? Good grief.
He is sitting in the back of the room.
Okay, Sorry.
Mrs. Keller?
Yeah.
Mr. Popo?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
At 7:02.
Karen, can I make copies of these?
Absolutely. Absolutely.